correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPG, the podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience.
Welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. My name is Steve. I'm joined here with Steve.
Hello.
Alrighty, folks. Well, here's the deal. It is, as you're well aware, the week between Christmas and New Year's. And we figured we'd just give you a little update on the state of the podcast, what's going on, and, just do our usual thing where we get lost in conversation.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, it's the holidays. Everybody's got a lot going on. You out there, us. So, we kind of thought, we didn't want to just put up a little quick message that said, yeah, no real episode this week. We'll be back next week. We've actually got the better part of 2 episodes recorded right now, but they're not ready to go out for broadcast. And, it's just one of those things where, look, we all want to spend some time with our family and loved ones as well. So we thought what we would do is just record kind of a quick thing here to let you know, kind of what's going on, some ideas we have going forward, but to also, let you all be spending time with people that are important to you.
So let's talk about one of the biggest changes coming to the show. Starting in 2021, we want to get some actual plays going.
Yes.
We mean like releasing possibly one every second episode, something along there. We haven't really ironed that out completely. I think we're talking about one every other episode, an episode of the actual play. What that actual play is going to be, who's going to be in it, those are all details being ironed out at the moment, but we do want to get that started coming 2021. We do have a actual play one-shot that'll be recorded just after the new year, and you can look forward to that. And should we tell them who the special guest GM on that one is?
Well, we could, or we could just tell them they already know if they've been listening to us.
Well, that's true. They would know who it is. I mean, we've had a few guests on, but there's only one that would be crazy enough to want to run a game for us.
That's true.
And, we've been talking about and alluding to this. One of the episodes that we just recorded was our Cyberpunk Red episode that is going to be a 2-parter. So keep an eye out for that. It's a long-winded discussion of Cyberpunk Red. It's everything you didn't need to know about Cyberpunk Red.
Well, look, we ramble, but, we've made no secret that it's a game and a genre that we both love. And so, yeah, if we're going to go full nuts and bolts on something, that's going to be it.
Yeah, and we did sort of warn you ahead of time that when it came out, it was going to be a big deal for us. And it just happened that we finally got around to both finishing our parts.
So, yeah, we're going to try and do some AP stuff. The one thing I think that we can both agree on at this point is, while we don't necessarily know what games we will be playing, while we might dip into the occasional D&D hack, be it, the spy game or something else, you probably won't be hearing Dungeons and Dragons, because you can go a lot of places and hear that. What we want to do is bring out, be it games that we've had on Games of the Week, or, just other lesser known but really cool games.
And we're hoping to average out about 12 episodes per actual play. Granted, some are going to go longer, some are going to be shorter. It's going to depend on the campaign, the setting, and the game. But just to give you an idea that, hey, every 12 episodes of actual play, we're going to try and switch it up to a new game.
Yeah.
And that's for our sanity, because we sit here every week and talk about, oh man, I love this game. Have you played this game? Have you checked out this game? And then we never get to play them.
Yeah. Because, the curse of doing this podcast thing is that we get to discover all these really cool, awesome games. And then we never have time to play them. So we figured this way, we can actually get to play some of these games and get content.
But, and the fact of the matter is that we're we're really looking to branch out on the podcast. We're looking to bring on more guests, which part of the interview that you did earlier today was two guests who are going to be really interesting. I'm excited to hear that interview. I didn't get to be there for that one, so you're going to hear me on the intro and outro, but not during the interview, like most interviews. I'm pretty bad at those, but I'm trying, okay? I'm trying to get better at interviews, but we're hoping to bring on more guests. We're hoping to bring bigger names onto the podcast and reach out to some people who are tied deeper into the industry, maybe other podcast hosts, maybe publishers and people in the actual games industry.
Yeah. So to speak, we don't want to stop doing what you've gotten used to hearing us do. It's just that we're going to kind of spread it out a little bit and also try to show you some of the games that you keep hearing us ramble on about in Games of the Week and so forth. And to that end, if any of you out there are listening are interested in participating in that stuff in any way, come join us on the Discord. I'm going to get some outline documents and stuff posted up regarding that as to what our plans are going to be, what sort of procedures we're going to have, because it's one of those things where, yeah, we're going to want to use some sort of safety tools just to have them there. Hopefully we never actually need to use them, but we want them to be there to make sure that everyone's having a good environment, that we're going to use session zeros, whether or not those get recorded for broadcast. That's up for future decision, but
I think that might depend on the game, honestly, because some games have a fun session zero to listen to, and some games are just okay.
Yeah, but so to speak, we want to go into this. It's not just going to be, all right, who can play on Tuesday? Okay, we're going to record it. No, we're going to set this up. We're going to make it something where we're following a lot of these things that we keep telling you are good ideas to do.
Yeah. And it's not only that, we do want to have you guys on. So if you're interested and you're a regular on our Discord and you're interested in participating in the actual plays, not that you have to have an open schedule, but we do expect you to be reliable because we are using this for content. So we can't have somebody who's going to show up one week and then next week he's going to not show up or they're not going to show up,
Yeah. The other thing that, like you said, yes, we do need people to be dependable. But one of the things we want to do to try and be able to make this kind of available for more people to participate in, and again, this is kind of a goal, whether or not it becomes reality, but I'd like to be able to, so to speak, before we broadcast any of a given actual play, we're going to have the whole thing recorded. Maybe
Right.
not edited and all that, but it'll be recorded, so it won't ever come up to a situation where, oh my God, we have to get this recorded because it needs to go out next week.
Right.
It's going to be something where we're going to play this out, we're going to get it done, and then we'll put it in between our normal episodes. And okay, so we don't have another campaign ready, then we just do normal episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we do filler and in the meantime, and as far as our normal episodes, they're not changing.
No.
You guys like the format. We're not changing the format in any way. We're just adding something a little bit different because part of our stated goal has been to get you guys introduced to weird and obscure RPGs, and not just weird and obscure, but stuff that isn't D&D. And one of the best ways to do that is to do an actual play, because I know for myself, and I'll say this has just been an inspiration for me. One Shot has been an inspiration for me to look and seek out these weird games.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to have, James D'Amato from One Shot on the podcast. I've talked about that in the past, and it's always been an inspiration for me to be like, what is this? This is Mouse Guard. I've never heard of this before. And just these weird, cool games that exist out there, and we want to get some actual plays of that going. We're like Steve said, it's going to be a while before you hear, you might hear the actual play One Shot before you hear us doing the proper actual play.
Mm-hmm.
And when that starts dropping, you'll understand that we try to record. So this is part of the reason why, if you ever notice that with news, we're maybe a little bit behind, we try to record about one episode ahead of what we release. So, say we recorded episode 17 today. Well, we have, technically 3 in the chute right now, ready to go. So,
yeah,
if you ever hear us talk about news and you're like, man, these guys are behind the curve, well, that's because we recorded it, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, and that's why sometimes our news isn't the freshest. And that's why, unless it's super important news, I try to stay away from it.
Yeah. Well, that's like you said, that's one of the reasons we don't really do that, other than occasionally talking about some things that maybe you wouldn't see on a lot of the bigger sites, that type of stuff. But
Yeah, you're not going to hear us get too in depth about, what Wizards of the Coast is doing or what Fantasy Flight Games is doing, unless it's something, or I should say Edge Studios at this point, unless it's something really cool and obscure, But at the same time, we don't want to leave you guys hanging in the middle of the holiday season going, well, where's their new Me and Steve episode? With it being right at the beginning of the new year, figured we'd give you guys just a little heads up, let you know what's going on, let you know what's planned for 2021. We're not going anywhere if you guys aren't going anywhere. D20 Network has been awesome to us. Gamer Nation has been great to us. And
yeah, and we really do appreciate all of you out there that listen.
yeah, we do. And I'll say this, I am planning on going to Gamer Nation Con in April, as long as that happens.
Yeah, I'm making no promises from me at this point. I would like to, but life is a funny thing, and given the way that
I can understand that, and I can understand, but I do want to try and make plans to go in April. So if you know about Gamer Nation Con, you'll be hearing a little bit more about that. I do want to talk to some people and make sure that's still planned to happen. I believe it is, but with the way of the world it is today, it's difficult to say one way or the other. But as long as Gamer Nation Con is still happening, I will be there. And I plan on running a game at Gamer Nation Con, or at least one. And I haven't decided what I'm taking, and I guess it might be a surprise to you when you sit down at my table to find out what I brought.
Knowing you, it may be a surprise to you.
Yeah, knowing me, it might be a surprise to me what I brought. But that's how I'll just say it. Because you're more structured than I am. I'm very off the cuff.
I'm only structured in that I know that if I don't structure myself, I do nothing.
Oh, see, I can do everything. I do everything off the cuff. My best campaigns have started with me and nothing. Like, I walk in with a blank notebook and everybody goes, "Oh, what do you write down? What do you got written for your campaign idea? What? I was supposed to write things in this? I got it up here. I got it up in my brain." And that's one of the things I love about the podcast, is because it does bring two people who have very different DMing styles to the table and have us talk about things. And we're very different, but we're the same in a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
We hold the same basic, when it comes to GMing or DMing, we hold the same basic ideas of how to make a better story, how to tell a better story, how to run a better game. And just because you have to be more structured than I do, it's like, I feel like a superhero sometimes, because like I have what they used to call ADD, what they call ADHD now, and I know you have it too, but I use mine to my advantage, because when my brain goes, ooh, squirrel, I just take it and shout it out to my table and they all go, ooh, squirrel. Because I've never played with anybody who, I've played with people who can't who can't take the ball and run with it, but I just end up pushing them in a direction and going, hey, the ball's going that way.
Oh my. So yes, going further, there'll be some new stuff. There'll be more of the stuff that you've come to know and love, or loathe, or whatever the appropriate terminology
and
is.
You know what? I keep saying this. If you loathe it, please tell us, because we'll never change if you don't tell us what we're doing wrong.
Yep.
I know it sounds like I harp on this every episode, but seriously, if there's something that you don't like, you got to tell us, because if I don't know that you don't like that, I can't make it better.
Pretty much.
Again, everybody who's come from D20 Network or come from Gamer Nation, everybody who's just sort of discovered us, we want to thank you. I want to, welcome you to 2021. And hopefully it's a better year, because this year has been a weird ride.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's about it, really.
Yeah. Do you want to do a game of the week?
Game of the week. Game of the week.
I'm going to grab one that just dropped. It's from somebody who I think is really cool. We've talked about them in the past. It's from the people who made Fragged Empire. It is actually Fragged Cyberpunk. And this is set before Fragged Empire or after?
before. It is
Before,
the
yeah.
canonical prequel.
Canonically prequel to Fragged Empire, which, if you heard us talk about Fragged Empire when we talked about it, we were both excited about this world and this setting and it being so cool. And now to have the world and the setting before everything fell apart. Oh man, I'm so excited. It just dropped today. It's $13 for the watermarked PDF. That is somebody who I would like to talk to in the future.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to see if we can't maybe get him on at some point. Interestingly, the other thing I discovered in browsing around, nebbing on Fragged Empire, is that some of the stuff in Fragged Cyberpunk is what do you want to say, pre-work for the forthcoming second edition of Fragged Empire.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that there's going to be a second edition of Fragged Empire, which is cool too. That's a game that's, you want to talk about a game that's being thrown around in my head as a game to get on a table. I think Fragged Empire is on that list.
Yeah. The artwork is just so good.
It really is, and I keep thinking about that being the game that I take to Gamer Nation Con.
Aha.
And there's a little sneak peek for you. But like Steve said, I'll throw that idea and then be like, nah, I don't want to do that one. I'll do this one. Nah, I don't want to do that one. It'll be the day of that I'll be like, I'm doing this one. And you'll find me at my table just filling out character sheets because that's what I do. What do you got, Steve?
Well, I went diving around and I found a weird little something that...
Is it Jason Statham's Day Off?
No, it's not. This is called Last Shooting. And it's just a little 2-player RPG to tell stories about mech battles. It uses what they're calling the Final Bid engine, which is, I guess, ties into another game or a modified version of it. But it says you build and define your characters more sharply with every scene, adding more details and aspects to your character as you go. Then it gives you power to destroy any of those aspects to propel yourself to victory. And so it's intended for single session, 2 to 3 hour gameplay. Like I said, 2 players. You define your pilot and destroy them. And the future hinges on what remains.
Nice.
It's $5 for the PDF. If you want the soft cover, it's $9. And you can, for $9, also get the PDF and the soft cover. There's a form fillable template linked in the drive-through listing that a fan made. Like I said, it doesn't look like it's anything complex, but it looks like it could be a fun thing to just fiddle around with every now and then.
Yeah. Something when you're like waiting for other people to show up, or, say everybody bailed and you're sitting at the table with one other player.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a light one. The preview unfortunately doesn't show much other than just the cover art, but the cover art's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's the one complaint I have with the Fragged Android preview at the moment, is it doesn't show much.
No.
There will be a strongly worded email going out to the creator of that game.
Well, see, I think though that I saw the listing, and given what his other listings look like,
yeah,
it apparently was thrown together a little more quickly because his other games.
Oh no, I'm not seriously upset with the creator in any way. I'm just want to give him a little bit of crap because it's funny to me.
If you go look at the listing for like Fragged Empire in particular, I wish every game did their listing like the listing for Fragged Empire, because it is wonderful. And I know that sounds like a weird thing to compliment someone on, but the listing for Fragged Empire should be the way every game is listed on DriveThruRPG.
I agree completely. And with that, I think we've come to the episode of this quick episode. Or end of this quick episode. Episode of this. Wow.
The episode of this quick end?
Yeah, that one. So we want to remind you to be kind to one another.
And go play some RPGs.
And Happy New Year. Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can also find us at facebook.com/meandsteverpg. Thank you, and be kind to each other.
How much for the cigar? cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.